So, Hannah, when we met, actually, we met literally trying the honey straight from the honeycomb
Okay. Yeah.
in that line. And I was just like, oh my God. It's kind of like I've heard people talk about celebrity energy. I've heard people talk about what it feels like when you're looking at someone who's very comfortable being perceived
Mm.
and how striking it is. And even when you don't know that someone's famous, you can pick up on the fact that they are or that they will be by that energy. And I
Mm.
feel like you have that.
Wow.
Have you ever been told that before?
Celebrity energy. It's so weird because I started to read this woman in LA who's like, she's all about like cultivating celebrity
Mhm.
energy and that it's really about feeling safe to be like perceived. I've had people say little things. Yeah, I can't lie. It has happened. And it kind of would also scare me because I think in my mind have associated celebrities with people who lead very chaotic emotional lives.
Right,
Like
right.
destroy themselves and other people. And then have little freak outs like, Justin Bieber recently. And I don't even think that was that bad actually. People are like, oh, look, he's losing his mind. I'm like, I actually thought he was
He's
pretty
okay.
he's fine,
Yeah.
right?
He needs sleep, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess yeah, I'm an Aries also. So,
Mm.
Aries, like my friend says, like he's an Aries too, and he says like Aries is an introvert who wants the benefits of extroverts. And I was like, I think that's true. We want both
Ooh.
things where it's like you want to be in your own space. You don't want people to bother you really, but you do want to be perceived. You do want
Yeah.
people to be paying attention when you want to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like the thing that I'm moving with now
Yeah.
of like, well, I mean, if I really want to connect with people, they're not gonna be able to find me if I'm hiding under a rock, right?
No. Are they?
Like they're not gonna and as a black woman, it's like, girl, like, we already I feel like as it is, like I think that for me, and I see this with a lot of my friends too, is like I think some of us it's like you really are afraid of how amazing you are. This is
Yeah.
not just like an ego stroke. It's
No.
like you really have it. You
Yeah.
do, and it's scary
And
to
it's
hold.
scary. It's very intimidating.
Yeah, because people will perceive that sometimes as you think you're better than them, because they're not carrying theirs. So they feel yours, right?
Yeah.
But they have it too. But you have to be in your own energy.
Mhm.
And you see also the fakery of it. We live in a world now where people are like, I'll sell it to you.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's like this interesting thing that we're in. Like on one hand, I'm so happy that I feel like we've kind of decentralized celebrity. And I think that's helpful.
I think it is
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
I think it's normal to see a celebrity and be like, "Oh, I like them." I don't
Mhm.
think that this pedestal that we were putting them on before was really healthy for us or for them.
No.
Like when I think about Michael Jackson and
Yeah.
everyone loves him so much, I'm like, he hated his life. Like he hated
Yeah.
going on tour.
Yeah.
He actually didn't really like performing.
Yeah.
I think he liked the rehearsal
Yeah.
part and working with other creatives. Of course, that's always the best part.
Mhm.
But then when it was time to be a celebrity and go to these appearances and market and everything, he was like, "Do I have to go?" Like he's on
Yeah.
record so
Yeah.
many times being like,
Yeah.
"Why do I have to be here? Why?" And they're like, "'Cause you have to." And he's like, "But do I?" And it's like it's relatable, but it's also like, why didn't anybody listen to him and let
They're making too
him.
much money off of him. You know, I mean, he's really like Michael Jackson is an enigma
Mm.
that we can speak about for the next century and still not get to the service. Because I'm like, every time I look at I want to name my brother Michael when he was
Yeah.
born because he was born in 1993, and I was like, please name him Michael because Michael Jackson, and he was so powerful in the culture, but for different reasons. But what I always has kind of freaked me out about him, I guess, is like we all know that his childhood was shit, right? Like
Yeah.
most of us have watched the VH1, movie, and so it's like, and I think that's not even getting the full extent of how bad it
No, that was the
was.
Hollywood
Yeah,
version, so
that's
you can
like the
imagine the
Hallmark version,
truth.
you know. And so then because of that, you're seeing these glimpses, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I couldn't have a son and do that to him.
No.
Like I couldn't do that to no. I don't get a fuck how talented he is. And I don't know, like I was really reflecting, like I don't know if you remember the black or white video. Do you remember that? It's
Oh,
like
if
Tyra
you wanna
Banks.
be my baby,
Yeah,
it
she's
don't
like,
matter if you're
yeah,
fly yes.
yeah. And she does at the end, they did it was really a big deal when they all change into different
Yeah.
people. And Tyra Banks is there. Um, and then that video ends. It's like Macaulay Culkin. It's like bright, and all of a sudden it goes into him. He turns into I guess, a Black Panther, and he's like crawling. And then he turns into Michael Jackson again. I don't even know there's a panther
Yeah,
somewhere,
reference.
and then he's like on the car. It's dark. He's on the car. He's like touching himself, like and it zooms in on his crotch, and then he turns into a panther again, or maybe I don't know. I don't know if the panther
Yeah.
becomes before and after, or just then, and then it ends, right? And I remember as a kid, I was like, that was like shocking to me. I was like, what the fuck was that, right? We went from Macaulay Culkin,
Right.
you guys are
To an animal.
to this dark thing, and it was like a lot at the same time. But now I think about it, and I'm like, oh, like my, I think it was like my cousin or my sister brought up like that's how he felt inside. The outside is doesn't matter if you're that shit like and then the reality is this interesting like repressed but over exemplified sexuality, and he's still like all scrawny. He starts beating a car, and he looks, I'm not gonna lie, he looks kind of, when you just could see someone's like they don't have strength in their body when
Yeah.
they hit something, you're like, oh,
Oh,
like
you don't have hands, do you?
there's some kind of like whatever. So he has that a little bit, and so it's just very interesting. Like I feel like for him, like juxtaposition, because it's like the thing that the people are scared of a black man, like the hypersexuality, the anger, this like extroversion of these things. But then it's also like Michael Jackson, you know,
You're
and
like,
he has
he's
like
fine.
the Jerry curl, and he's like super light, and he's like scrawny hitting a car, and rubbing his crotch. Like it's just so much is going on, and
Yeah.
yeah, the 90s was weird. But yes, yeah, putting people on pedestals. I just like, and I think it's like also weird, like where like, it used to be people had like their domains. And then like not like you can't cross over, right? But like, why are we asking certain people about certain things? They've never expressed an interest. They don't study. They're literally like gleaning shit off the internet typically. Many of them don't read. I don't think it's a bad thing. You get to do whatever you want to do.
But it doesn't
But
make sense.
maybe you shouldn't be the spokesperson for this
Right.
issue. And maybe people should maybe ask people who are actually studying this
Yeah.
shit, because they're around,
Yeah.
then most of them will talk to you for free.
I
So,
feel that 100%. I think we've lost the art of expertise.
yeah.
We've lost the art of like, hey, I've dedicated my time for some years at building a knowledge base and a foundation to this thing.
Mhm.
And now I'm ready to share it with you. And while that knowledge base is still growing and evolving, like, this is what I'm starting with, which is more than average.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people more so it's like, who do we want to hear it from, not who actually
Mhm.
has
Yes.
that wealth of
Mhm.
knowledge.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like, well, and again, I'm not like I don't know if you remember when the Dixie Chicks said some what did they do? I think they were speaking out against like the war in Iraq, and then people like shut up and sing.
I remember
And it was a
that.
big deal,
It
right?
was a
And
big
they're like, I'm
deal.
not ready to play nice, right? So like white women getting an attitude, right? And
Oh my god.
but it was like, okay, there are people who I do think are passionate
Yeah,
and have knowledge. I'm not like, I know that there are people who are famous
100%.
who are, they've read books, they've talked to people, they've moved, they've
Even if
done
it's
things.
like, "Hey, I'm the Dixie Chicks,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna amplify this person
Yeah.
because this is the person I'm learning from." I think that's very
There you
powerful
go.
versus saying, "I'm a member of the Dixie Chicks and I have landed in Iraq. You're welcome, and I'm
No.
here to liberate you." It's like, okay, you
Well,
can't center yourself in the
no,
conversation.
no.
And something that I've learned even from the controversy with Jubilee right now and like Amanda Seals is that a lot of people are speaking from a place of not having a clue. Like when I looked into the conversation with Black conservatives, many of them are not Black American. Many of them
Mm,
are immigrants. Many of
mm,
them just don't have the connection. And I remember being Jamaican growing up with that idea of like, these Black Americans, they don't know work because you come from a third world country and think, oh, well, we know work. And it's like, you're coming in a different timeline, you're
mhm.
coming in a different
Yeah.
context, and you're not seeing where the labor is taking place. You're
Yeah.
not seeing the psychological, emotional labor,
Mhm.
the masking that you have to do
Yes.
versus when you're in Jamaica, like everybody's a yachty at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Mhm.
There's that, and
Mhm.
you're also not seeing the context of like what people are willing to do when they're out of their depths and out of their environment.
Mhm.
So put a
Mhm.
Black American somewhere else where they have to start over from scratch, and you'll see those
Mhm.
same
Exactly.
characteristics.
Yeah.
But you don't see a grandma sitting on her porch watching traffic go by, and you don't look at her and go in Kingston and say, she's just lazy. You would never say that. She's in
Mm-mm.
her home, and
Mhm.
she's in her home country, and she's in her home
Mhm.
environment. And like
Mhm.
that hits different than when you're abroad in any
Yes.
context.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it is interesting how the criticisms are very rarely coming from people who actually understand the experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course not. Because if
Yeah.
you understood it, you wouldn't
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah. You would
Yeah.
take your time. And there's I don't know if you saw that Human of New York post. My comment, I had a comment that kind of blew up on it. It's like that doesn't really happen to me. So I was like, wow. But it was about this woman. I don't know if she said she was Caribbean or not, but raised in New York. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, like, because she had like I think two different posts, and they kind of blew up, right?
Yeah.
And so she was just talking about how like she's like, I'm a hoe, basically, like this is what I do. And she's like, I sleep with like a lot of African guys and a lot of men who are like who are Muslim, and she's like they think that they're better than us, than Black Americans. But then she's also like, she has a post where she talks about her hurt. She's like being called like names about being dark skinned, and like how she does, oh, like I think something like about Black Americans having a crabs
Crabs
in
in
a
a
barrel
barrel. Yeah.
mentality. So the comments just went
Crazy.
wild. Of course,
Crazy.
people were very triggered and activated. There's another comment I had that did not go really anywhere, where someone said like, what did they say? They said something like, oh, we're different. Like, we're not the same as Africans. Like, we're our own separate thing. And I was like,
Hmm.
well, because I've heard it. I didn't know that there's a growing contingent of people, and I don't. And again, I'm not versed in this history,
Yeah.
so I don't know. But people who say that Black people were native to this land,
Yeah.
and that they don't have a connection to Africa. I was like, okay,
Mm.
that's interesting, because I think every human being on this planet does, because
Yeah.
that's where first signs of life come from. It doesn't matter who you are or
It
where you
all
would have
originates
went.
here.
So when people want to argue and do all these things, I'm just like, one day when you're okay with that, you're an African, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Until that day, stay over there,
Yeah.
because you are bothersome and dangerous. But basically, I think the thing was where I I think because I grew up here, Nigerian American, spent the first 4 years of my life in the UK. I've always had different family members, like my uncle's wife, first some time, is Jamaican. I have one uncle who married someone who's like half white. I was raised by a white nanny for the first 4 years of my life.
Mm.
So it has like my Black African experience has been very diverse. And then my dad and my uncle both had convenience stores in like basically the center of LA and like actually North Long Beach. So, my dad, I really give my parents credit because they did not raise us to think that we were better than
Right.
African Americans. So when I get approached that way, like I feel like it's a projection of people's hurt from someone else. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm not that African. I know there's some African who fucked you up, but like literally I'm just here to like,
Yeah.
you know, chill. Like that's not my vibe. And I get it, like that's a hurt. But and also I've had my hurt, right? I've had people make fun of the way I look. I've had people make fun of the language. I've had people be very ignorant to what I call home. But I can have compassion because I understand the
Yeah.
history of this land. a history that, yes, as Africans, we don't have that same connection. When I had to think about my forefathers and mothers, I'm going off land, right?
Yeah.
Like it's now somewhere else that I did not was not raised. And actually, there's some African American people who have more knowledge of their lineage than some of us in
Oh,
Africa.
yeah.
Like I know my tribe, I do know that to a certain degree, but then it kind of stops, and because there was schooling, everything was like oral, no idea for certain spaces where, like, I think it's more than likely East, because I think
You
we
want to
all,
know the humbling thing
yeah,
is when a white person knows more about Black history than you do in
yeah,
that moment.
yeah,
And like, I'm ashamed to admit that I've had a lot of those conversations where someone literally could tell me about myself and about my heritage more than me because they could sit around and read about it and they
hmm,
don't have the shame attached. Meanwhile, because I was like, what is that? Like, why don't I know more about Jamaican culture? Why don't I know more about Black American culture and music and food? And like, why don't I have that? And finally, I realized I was like, well, I was really busy assimilating.
yeah,
I was really busy trying to prove to the American fabric that I could be one of them, that I could be accepted.
hmm,
And that meant listening to their music, watching their TV shows, not speaking patois, and even my household, like not allowing me to speak patois, even though I was growing up speaking patois. And they were like, you need to stop doing that and you need to speak English. And I was like, but I already speak English at school. And they're like, right, but you need to speak English at home. So they're speaking patois to me, and I'm speaking English back to
yeah,
them.
same,
And even though I'm pretty good at speaking patois, it's like now it's taken over, English has taken over my thoughts,
hmm,
and
hmm,
my default setting is
hmm,
English. And so now it feels like I'm putting on a voice
hmm,
when I speak patois rather than
hmm,
like that being a part
hmm,
of me. And I think while I understand why a Black family might want to set their kids up for what they think is success,
hmm,
that is probably the one thing that I regret on their behalf. Of like,
hmm,
I
hmm,
wish it was speak patois at home at least,
hmm,
because that language connection
hmm,
is so huge. And not being able to just flip it on and stay there. Like I can flip it on for a phrase or two, but stay there and
hmm,
stay in that for a day. I was like, huh,
yeah,
that's tough. And that feels like there was a part of me that was kind of robbed,
hmm,
even though in so many ways I'm Jamaican.
hmm,
The fact that
hmm,
I had to do what I had to do was because of being Jamaican. So
mhm,
I feel
mhm,
very Jamaican, but I don't sound or look very Jamaican.
mhm,
And that
mhm.
is like an uncomfortable truth.
Like, I can understand Yoruba. I can't really speak it.
Mm,
When I hear myself, like, I always say that, I'm like, even for, like, to be honest, AAVE, I can understand the dialect very well,
mm-hmm.
but can I speak it? Like here and there.
Honestly, honestly.
I can do a little bit, but it would be like, I never saw Malibu's Most Wanted, you know? I tried it once. There's this part I read about in the book about like I was always called like Oreo and all that shit in like high school. And so I decided I'm gonna go try to I'm gonna best them, right? I'm gonna go to Urban Dictionary. I'm gonna get the
Mm,
best word. And I said that word in front of my
mm.
friend Jania and this girl named Dominique who never liked me. I call them different names in the book, but they gave me this look. It was just like
Like a white girl that
they're just
didn't skip it
like,
in a
yeah, and
song.
I was like, you know what? That's the last time. I'm like, I'm never gonna be here again. This is it. Like,
Mm.
I'm like, I have to just stick with whatever this is. People don't get it. It's okay. you know?
It's funny because I feel like well versus interesting. Like, I don't sound like an East Side Black person from Atlanta, but I do dibble and dabble in African American English,
Mm-hmm.
and mostly because of the queer community,
Mm,
where I really feel like the chain of operations is
mm-hmm.
Black trans, Black gays, Blacks, Gen Z, and then we
Interesting.
lose it once it gets to like millennials or whoever the middle generation is.
Mm-hmm.
Past that is gone. And
Mm.
that's like the order of operations of like
Hmm.
youth language.
Hmm. Interesting.
It
I can see
starts in the
that.
ballroom. And whenever I hear like ballroom language, like even just on RuPaul where she's like sashay
Mm.
away,
Mm-hmm.
or like yes and all that stuff, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that wasn't for you.
Huh?
It's like it wasn't for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
for the black gays.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I don't know what the white gays are doing. I don't know what they're doing. I
I
don't
don't
go over there.
know. I mean, the lines used to be less drawn. It's like the districts have. It felt like, it's like there's like an electronic, like
Hmm.
when you go to certain places. But yeah, I don't know. It's so, but it is. That's why I love like studying music, because I feel like music,
Yes.
you can really see like, okay, you know, um, this is how gospel becomes blues,
Hmm.
which also becomes rock and becomes jazz, and like how like they dip in all these poles. Like I feel like just you just see people's movement with
Hmm.
music, and that's also kind of how I think of like just life. I'm like, well, you can see like you guys wouldn't have really any modern music
Anything.
unless you have that African drum.
Mm.
You guys didn't invent that shit. That's one thing you guys did not do. Drumming was not your forte. You've been inducted into it, but that's not where you started.
Right.
That drum started in Africa. So that is a heartbeat of almost every song. Even if you start to get discordant, right, from it, it's like a drum that gets shaped and molded as you move, right? A
Yeah.
bass. So I feel like that's kind of like Africa, where I'm like, that people can deny it. So it's always there,
It's
you
also
know?
interesting to think about a time where music had to be enjoyed in a certain space
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like they had speakers. So you
No.
had to go to a church or go
Mm-hmm.
to the theater to hear music and how like moving it was to be like, what is that sound? Because that sound
Mm-hmm.
isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And how policed it was. Like, even
Mm.
when I love The Sound of Music. It's one of my favorite movies. And literally, Flo and Maria they were talking shit about her because she would sing in her free time.
Mm.
They're like, she's always singing the Abbey. It was almost like they were saying she was twerking or something.
It was.
But for
It was
them,
pleasurable.
it was pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they didn't like. And so sometimes I think about luxuries like that, like the fact that we can listen to music at any time,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that we have access to ice.
Yeah.
I love ice.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
sometimes I drink ice water and I'm like this isn't soda. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like it's so different
Yeah.
just to have ice in there. So it's interesting to lean into like the things that good, that
Mm-hmm.
make us feel connected to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that makes
Mm-hmm.
us feel like everything's okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how we're the discomfort around strengthening that relationship again with
Mm-hmm.
it. When we think about pleasure, we're always thinking about like sexual pleasure,
Yes.
food
Yeah.
pleasure, or guilty pleasure. It's
Yeah.
always guilt. Like that phrase is
Yeah.
wild to me, like
Yeah.
guilty
Guilt.
pleasure.
But then that also says something, right? That's showing us that that's a major association in people's mind. Pleasure, guilt comes very
Yeah.
close, right? Or like anger, fear is
Yeah.
close, right? Not the same thing, but
But they're side by
there's
side.
something for a lot of people. Like this would be guilt, and I'm like, in America, I'm like, there's a man in office right now who is like literally like gutting the world, right? And you want me to feel guilty about
About a McDonald's meal.
McDonald's? Get the fuck out of here! Like, no, I'm not going to
No.
feel guilty. And it's more like, okay, this food, yeah, it's processed. I understand that, which is why I don't do it every day,
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky to be able to not do it every day. But for some people, they don't really have a choice, right? So maybe they have to like, get creative of what they have access to. There are a lot of McDonald's,
Right.
right? And so I think that that's something to look at, is like that guilt, and who does that benefit? Like that's the thing I keep on. I'm like, well, if I've actually never watched Sound of Music. I know, I know.
You would love it, I think.
I think I would.
I think you would love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's so long
Mm-hmm.
and it needs to be.
Okay.
Like, there's not if I were to think, like, what would I cut to make it, like, less than 3.5 hours, I
Wow.
can't think of anything. They give you
Wow.
an intermission.
Wow, okay, that's
So it's
nice.
but it's incredible. I think for me, like, growing up how I did, it's like my mom was not mothering. She was, like, systematically providing
Mhm.
at best, but she wasn't, like, nurturing, teaching, protecting, showing kindness, modeling these things. I had to get that bits and pieces from other adults in my life.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
when I see a character like Floreline Maria who comes in, she can sing, she can dance, she's crafty, she's artistic, she's
Mhm.
just loves things. She's naturally radiates happiness, and other people's misery doesn't infringe on that. Other people's jealousy, she's like, I just wanted to sing and do the puppets with the kids. So I don't know. You let me know. I could go back to the Abbey, like whatever you want to do. Like she's very earnest
Okay.
and very safe and non-judgmental and like
Mhm.
talks to the eldest daughter differently than she does the youngest.
Mm.
And she's incredible, like
Wow.
incredible, incredible. And I know that's not how she really was because I read her background and I was like, oh, it wasn't like that at all. But I was like, I'm gonna take the story is hitting.
Yeah,
The story
right,
hits.
yeah,
But
yeah.
for me, I love that. I watch it
Mhm.
every year.
Wow,
I
okay.
watch it every year,
I
and the
need to watch
songs are
it. Yeah,
amazing.
I do my aunts always singing the
Yeah,
songs, and they definitely like I have twins
yeah.
too, aunts who are twins, and so they have a very close relationship to it, but
It's
yeah.
one of those unifying thing like, Tabor and I went hiking, and there was a family that passed by, and they were singing one of the songs, and so joined in, and then another 2 hikers came in
Wow.
and joined in again, and it was, like, the whole path for that foreseeable, like, that you could see was singing the song, and
Wow.
it was, like, the purest moment,
That's so
and
sweet.
I was like, oh my god, it was such a LA
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
It was like, we're like for all like it was classic diddly
Yeah,
dabbling. Like we were
yeah.
diddly dabbling, like
That is
for
yeah,
real.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So I'm really excited about your writing. I was looking at a post that you shared and you were like, why as creatives, really specifically writers, but as a person who does art direction, photography, and like all
Mhm.
the things, even as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
I resonated with that where you were like, why do we have shame for working?
Yeah.
And in your context, you were talking about just doing something outside of the art
Yeah.
to support the art.
Mhm.
I even interpreted it as why do we have shame that we try in the arts?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
because I think we glorify, like, oh, this just came to me in a dream and I was just so
Yeah.
inspired. I was in flow.
Mhm.
And I'm like, my art don't come like that.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
have to fight for my
Yeah.
inspiration. And so even me like trying so hard to get the shot, like it took
Mhm.
me years and years and years for my photography to be good.
Mhm.
And so when
Mhm.
people are like, "Oh, I've been shooting for a year, it's not that good." I'm like, I didn't really get good until like six,
Mhm.
7 years in.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not saying it
Mhm.
should take that long,
Yeah.
but for me, it took
Mhm.
that long.
Yeah.
And but I was a creative through and through,
Mhm.
and that was the medium of my choice.
Mhm.
And owning that
Mhm.
and saying, I will do whatever it takes to support the art. I think that was just such a powerful thing because it reminded me of Big Magic and Elizabeth
Mm.
Gilbert
Mhm.
and her
Mhm.
saying like, it's this thing that you need to protect. Don't put it in harm's way.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I love that you shared that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because I mean a lot of it's like classism,
A
it's
hundred
like
percent.
I had another post that kind of like resonated with a lot of people where it was like about why do so many celebrity kids become artists? And it's like because when you don't have to worry about your bills, the artist comes out to play, right? And that's the beautiful thing about kids. Like so many kids, even if they don't go up to be like become artists, love art, right? Because it's
Yeah.
just fun, and
Yeah.
there's no judgment and they get to experiment and the textures and they're like working things out. And it's sad because so many of us lose that. And then I think that like what happens too is when it's like I was not really like supported as a young artist. It wasn't like my parents would see what I was doing and be like, wow,
We need to put you in da da da
no,
da da. No.
that never happened, right? My parents were like, you're going to become, for me, it was a doctor.
Yeah.
My parents really, my mom used to, I remember she cut out an article about Ben Carson, you know? And now it's like funny because now,
Where are they now?
yeah, where is he now, right? And it was like when he had like operated on these twins, and she's like, wow, one day you're gonna, this is gonna be you. And I was like, and I actually, that was a good idea. I agreed. I was like, I
Yeah.
love
You're like,
to
wow.
help people,
Yeah.
but then I read this other article and it said that doctors don't get to spend that much time with their kids
Yeah.
or with their families. I was like, I don't want to do. Immediately, I was like, nah, that's not
Nah.
me. I need to do something where I can balance both, right? My mom was very sad, you know,
Mm. She
when
didn't
I.
want to hang out with you.
No, I mean, I went to military school, right? So,
That should tell you.
but I think that actually like helped me a lot because it made me have to like fight for my art, right?
Yes.
Because I went to a school where like everything was like math and science. I did not do too well there.
Mm.
It really was a struggle to move through. And that was like the first time I ever like really struggled with academics. And then on top of that, there's like three Black women in the whole school, and it's mostly male. It's like 85% male. And it's pretty like, intensive, like physically. And, it's not like a place where it's like, yeah, your artist is going to come out. But I think because of just how non-arty it was, it made the drive in me to create even stronger. And because I had to start at such a different space than so many people, some of my peers who like they went to the university and they were already kind of dabbling in the liberal arts and taking creative writing classes. I'm not doing that shit. I
Yeah.
don't have time, literally don't have time in my schedule, but I could see the ways I pursued it even then,
Yeah.
and I think that also put in my mind that yeah, it is work. And so when people are like, I want to write a book, and I'm like,
Okay.
all right, cool. And then I'm like, what kind of writer are you though? Are you a writer who loves words, or are you a writer who wants to tell a story?
Mm.
Because some people want to do both, but many writers want to do one or the other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have to know, which one you are. And I can work with both.
Mm.
I know what I love, and what I'm invested in. And that does take practice. It does, like any craft,
Right.
right? Most of us don't wake up instantly good at this thing. Even if you have a natural talent and love for it,
It has to be nurtured.
it still has to be nurtured and again crafted, invested in, cared for. And how the fuck am I going to do that if I can't pay my bills?
Right.
Right? If I don't have something that I'm balancing, right? This is how artists end up in predatory relationships with
Yeah.
jobs, with people, with
Mm.
partners. And yeah, like I've had to get have support from my family. I stayed in the reserves for 2 extra years to have some extra money. Taking whatever job will pay. I was an AI chatbot for a minute. Yeah, there was a
Wow.
couple of us from my
A
MFA.
real life
I was a chat.
chatbot.
We were all named Lisa. Lisa. I'm
See,
like,
it's a
please.
human.
Yeah.
It's a person. It wasn't even a bot.
So it was like, sorry, I just want to grab a napkin. But we weren't. It's very dystopian actually, our
Yeah.
job. But yeah, so it's like at first I think I was ashamed because you go into these like spaces and no one's talking about that shit.
No.
Right? Everyone's just like, yeah, I just did this and or I had to take a gig for a bit. And it's like this very pretentious thing. And I'm like, I have to work.
Yeah.
you know, I've had to do substitute teaching. I've had to be also a teacher assistant. I've gone to teach at gifted programs and spaces. I've house sat for people. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is that's going to give me the flexibility and money to help me create the thing I want to create, I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to also move in a way that's wise, so that I can keep my values intact.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do, again, when you're like super struggling. It's
Yeah.
very tough when you don't have a support system, at least with something, you know? But yeah, I think we just, there's a very like deep seated, romantic, weird, like single story about what it is to be like an artist and a writer, especially now. And it's like, yeah, many of us have worked in the gig economy.
Yeah.
Like many of us have like we have degrees, right? We have whole ass degrees, you know. Many of us are still hustling in certain ways. So yeah, it's just
Because I got into ginger hair productions after the tech industry. So I got into it thinking I'm going to build a business. And in that business, I'm going to offer these creative services. And what I realize is a lot of people get into doing photography as an artist. Like, I'm going to be an artist, and
hmm
like one day somebody will value my art. And they don't want to touch the
hmm
money part.
yeah.
And I'm like, but that's how you get paid. Right? And so it's interesting, and I've run up against like friends on this topic of like you can be an illustrator. Like you can do your doodles. Like I went to Mailchimp's website. Who did all those illustrations? They got paid for that. And it's interesting how people have this resistance like they think that art and money don't go together.
hmm
When there was a time when artists were what you would say the rock stars or
hmm
the celebrity like artists were like the pinnacle of like success at one
hmm
point, and
hmm
then we transitioned out of that to value more engineering and more like
hmm
tactical things. But I still feel like it's interesting how people have this almost like allergy to like entrepreneurship,
hmm
which is
hmm
what it ultimately is.
Yes.
And every time I see someone that's like, oh, I tried to be a full-time influencer and I just couldn't do it. I'm like, you couldn't do what? What exactly? Like, what aspect of it could you not do? Because
hmm
nothing stops you from creating.
hmm
Nothing stops you from pursuing. You're still here. You're still healthy. Like, what aspect of it? Because in my mind, I'm like, let's break it down. Is it the pitching? Is it the rejection? Is it that you don't feel like you can walk into a room and say, I'm a full time influencer? Do you judge yourself for that? Do you miss the belonging of
hmm
the corporate space and all
hmm
your friends having corporate jobs? Do you miss brunch?
hmm
Like, do you miss going to Pilates? You miss not having to care about how much you're spending at a coffee shop? Like,
hmm
what is it that in a year, which is, I'm realizing no time at all,
Yeah.
that you're like, oh, it didn't work? I'm like, it's not that it didn't work. You stopped doing it.
Mhm,
Like you
mhm,
stopped, and that's okay. But own
mhm,
that. Be like, you know what? I tried it. I didn't like it. I respect that more than the it just didn't work. I'm like, well, you're not dead.
mhm, mhm,
So like
mhm,
what like
mhm,
it's like
mhm,
what is that?
mhm,
Looking back on when I was in tech and I had art shows, I was doing print work with my photography. I was doing like photojournalism, essays and stuff like that.
mhm,
And I was telling Tabari, I was like every year for like 4 years, I submitted, how the google.com used to be like the thing.
mhm, mhm,
And they would take submissions. I think
mm,
might still do. They would take submissions to like redesign the Google
mhm,
search bar. And
mhm,
I submitted 4 times. And I was like, every time, the first time I was like, okay, you're right. It's Google. It's Google. The second time I was like, this one right here, this is
mhm,
going to get it. Didn't get it. Obviously.
mhm,
The next time I was like, okay, there's no way that I'm
mhm,
not getting it. And like every year, and I never ended up getting it actually. But it was just like every submission of like, hey, we're
mhm,
accepting
mhm, mhm,
the challenge or whatever. And I would like take my colored pencils and come up with an idea and mail it,
mhm.
mail it in.
Wow.
And I was so committed. And so it's funny because I haven't had the chance to really process that
Mhm,
or to think about what I'm doing compared to what other people are doing.
mhm,
But I used to kind of beat myself up for starting so late because similarly my creative work was not
mhm,
supported. But when I look back on it, I was
mhm,
like, oh, nothing got in my way.
mhm,
Nothing got in my way. I just did other things in the
mhm,
meantime, but like
mhm.
every year I can point back to a major project that
Mhm,
I did, even
mhm,
if like two people saw it.
mhm.
Yeah.
No, it's really beautiful when you really start to see the dedication. And there's a book. I mean, there's like The Art of War. That's a very famous book. But this man wrote like The War of Art. It's very like white man macho. However, there are some like really great passages about it, but it just kind of does help to see it just like in story, basically the main ingredients of story is a desire plus an obstacle equals conflict. And then action is to resolve that that tension between a want and a need, and the want and the need are actually mirrors of the same thing, right? So you're just exploring that tension. But if you don't have obstacle, you don't have a story. You
Mm.
need, if there's a desire and a person just gets it, well then it ends, right?
Yeah.
They've the desire has now been fulfilled. So it has to be that the person has a desire, but what's in the way?
Right.
There's external issues are in the way, internal issues. And so I think when you're going to do like to be an artist and you're like, I'm going to do this thing, you do have to like the obstacles are going to present themselves, you know?
You don't have to look far.
No, they'll show up right there, right? And money is a huge one, right?
So tell me about the process of getting your book published. Because I feel like if I wrote a book, I would literally walk around with it pinned to my waist and be like, in case you didn't know, I wrote this. So,
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's gonna have to be part of my marketing. Because yeah, getting the word out is like another aspect of it. But I actually self-published.
mm,
So and I already knew I was gonna self-publish it. And I knew that for my novel that I've been working on for a while now that I wanted that to be traditionally published. But I was curious if I had known now, like what the details were. I don't know if I would have done it, but I'm glad I did because it taught me a lot of things, like how to get funded for it. This book is possible because of like two grants, you know. So I received the Advancing Black Arts Foundation grant in Pittsburgh, and then in 2021 I got the California Emerging Artist Fellowship grant. So both of those were contributed to this project. So that was helpful because everything I had to like do or source. So the editing I had to source, the interior design, the book cover. So I
it's an
gave
amazing
Thank you.
cover.
I gave my ideas about like what I wanted, and it also went through several like iterations before it landed on this. But like yeah, everything is like basically from is I had to like it's basically like a community that made this book possible. So yeah, I feel like I started kind of blogging here and there about some of these like subjects in like 2015 or 14. And then I knew I wanted to write like some kind of like self-help something.
Yeah.
And but there's also like pushback inside 'cause I was like, oh, like I'm in an MFA. Self-help is kind of seen as like a ghetto genre, you know? It's
Is
like
it really?
yeah, from an MFA perspective, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like it's not like I ever read I don't think I ever read one I don't think I ever had one self-help book assigned to me during my time. Yeah.
That's wild because
Yeah.
self help got me into reading.
I know, I think it's that way for a lot of people. So, but we did not. Like I don't remember.
Wow.
And I was reading a lot of self-help before, so I felt kind of ashamed
Yeah.
because it was like seen as kind of hokey. It's seen as like what else was it seen as? Just like kind of like the most like juvenile of the genres almost, you know? So yeah, I had to go through all that. Like am I actually gonna write like a self-help book? And then finally like committed to it.
I'm
Wrote
just
it during
so
the pandemic.
stuck on
Yeah.
that because self-help is so helpful.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think because the work had to happen on the front end of like, I did these things, now I can share it with you. It's like the underbelly of the iceberg
Mhm.
in a sense. Like, you can write a story and not have any connection to it at
Yes.
all.
Yes.
But with self help, at least a great self help, it's
Mhm.
like, well, first you got to be the first lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only one person can write that book.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
just so, I mean, I didn't have
Mhm.
that schooling of like
Mhm.
the creative school. And I think I'm glad
Yeah,
because I think it
there
would
are
have
some
really,
benefits. It looked like I was lying for a minute because I'd be like, it's coming out this year. Just kidding. After a point, my sister's like, Hannah, I want you to go to your Instagram, take it all down. She's like, everything you've said. She's like, you're starting to look messy. It's starting to look like all over the place. So I took a lot because it would be like I'd announce it and I
Yeah.
would think I was done, right? But then it would come back and then like the interior would be all off. Or like I remember the first time it came back to me and I sent it out for edits and it came back and I'm like, oh, she thought I meant like cosmetic edits. I mean, like, take this shit apart. Like, so then I had to hire again. And then that was another process. So I feel like I did all the things, like, I made all the mistakes, but it did teach me
Yeah.
about the process and like little things like having an ISBN number, having a
Mm.
Library of Congress number for your book, especially if you're self published. And because of my MFA, I had access to people who I could ask for blurbs. I had access to except one person who did not get back to me. No, I won't say the name, but
They know who they are.
no. But everyone else did, and that was really beautiful, right? And I also had friends who looked after it. Randomly, for the sake of God, had the goddess had a woman who volunteered to edit it at the near end, and that would have probably just with her expertise and this kind of project, it probably would have been cost me at least 8K
Yeah.
that I got for free.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, this book was meant, it was difficult because I'm minus during the pandemic.
Yeah.
know, I'm living at home. Um, I'm like having a lot of like health issues. Um, you know, so kind of sometimes I'm like, should I be writing this book about pleasure and Oshun and look at look at my life, right? But then I think that that's actually what got me through, right? Is like it helped me to step up in a lot of ways and to own it. And because I said I was going to do it, now I got to do it, right? That's how I feel. Like if I say something, it's like I'm going to do this thing. So, yeah, it was just, but I love that it's like all these different people. And because of this book, I start to meet, it helped open up my life in other ways, going to readings, meeting people who resonated with it, also just getting to know Oshun and the Yoruba pantheon like more intimately. So yeah, it's been a true like it's still ongoing, it's still
Labor of love.
ongoing. Yeah, but that was a process. But yes, I did choose to self-publish this one.
Do you think that everyone should write a book?
Hmm. It was funny. Years ago, I said yes. I don't think I say yes now.
Why not?
I think, well, and this is my ideal world, is you do something because you're invested in it. Because I'm so invested in this art form, it's not that I don't think I'm not like on some, tribunal who's like, you don't get to write a book, like you people can do whatever they want. But because I do love this craft, um, I think everyone has a book in them. I believe that. And it could be a children's book. It could be a chapbook. It could be a poetry book. I don't know what kind of book it is, but there's some kind of book there. So I guess, yeah, maybe it is like everyone should write the book that's in them.
Mm.
And for some people, they have multiple books. For some people, you might think you have multiple books, but you have 3 pages, and that's beautiful. But let's be for real, right? you know? And because I just know too many writers, it's not like they suffer, so it can't be fun for you. It's like not like that. It's like I actually really don't believe in that shit. I believe you should write what you're at like what you want to write is what your ancestors just trying to speak through you. So just write that and you'll be fine. I feel like they'll take care of the rest. But I don't feel like I do get a little annoyed when people are like willy-nilly, I'm gonna write a book. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And
Because
I'm
it's
like,
not a willy-nilly
because I was like,
activity.
okay, I don't approach like that. So even as a book coach, I'm like, we're not going to be a good match.
Right.
You want to tell stories, beautiful. You should learn that is an art form, and I don't know where you want to take it. But this idea that like there are levels to it, as they say, right? I don't like I love to dance, I'm about to go and be like, yeah, Beyonce, Sierra, Megan Thee Stallion, meet me backstage. And I'm no, I'm gonna be like, clearly they have a natural talent. They've been training, they've done it a lot. They are masters of the dance. That
Yeah.
is beautiful. It doesn't mean I can't dance.
Right.
It doesn't even mean I can't call myself a dancer.
It's just
But I
levels.
just understand that okay,
Yeah.
there's levels. Sometimes when for books, people all of a sudden want to like disappear that part. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you can, but I won't. You know?
Right.
And that's fine. So yes, I think everyone has a book in them. And some people have many books. Some people it's just like, oh, that's all you should really be doing is writing books because you have so much in you, or you have one epic in you, and you can literally dedicate the next 20 years in your life to do that. You
Mm.
know, because some books that's how long they take.
Mhm.
You know, they take like there are a lot of people who are like, they might have want like I wanted this book to come out in a year. It took 4.
Mm.
That was its process, and I'm so glad it did because the difference is so major. So that waiting, the finessing, the refining was worth it. And so when people want to just kind of willy-nilly pop in, I'm like, well, you can, but I'm not then gonna be like, yeah, you did something that is a work of art and
Right.
you are on this level. No, you won't see me do that. I'm sorry. Nope,
Mm. I
so
feel that way about business.
mhm.
I think entrepreneurship is for everyone, but everyone can't do it.
Mhm.
Everyone isn't okay with the fact that what it comes down to is that moment of like, "Hey, I think I can help you, but you
Mhm.
have to pay me first. Do you
Mhm.
wanna do that?"
Mhm.
That can be a 6-month, 6-year conversation, but
Mhm.
that's the bones of the conversation, and I think the people who are willing to ask that question, even if it's through a series of hour-long conversations,
Mhm.
they're different than the people who are fundamentally not willing to have that conversation.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's different. And I kind of have this epiphany of like, that's the pinnacle of any career.
Mhm.
I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what your title is. If all of a sudden you have to be the one to say, with your money on the line, not even
Mhm.
selling for someone else,
Mhm.
with your money and ego and reputation and your mom in your ear and your dad in your ear, your older brother that thinks you ain't shit in your ear,
Mhm.
while you're saying, hey, give me money because I can help you. That is a very unique feeling
Mhm.
that if you're willing to endure that to have what you want, you're
Mhm.
different than everyone else. You're
Mhm.
just different.
Mhm.
It's like creatives are different
Mhm.
because you're willing to do this really hard thing so you can have like this butterfly moment.
Mhm.
So I'm so excited that we got McDonald's.
Mhm.
You brought McDonald's back into my life. It's definitely a childhood favorite. I don't indulge often
Yeah.
because like
Mhm.
realistically, I can't.
Right.
Realistically, my stomach doesn't do what it used to do.
Yeah.
I have to take care of it, but it was such a treat.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is so cool.
Yeah. McDonald's for me is a very like complex food. It's like one of the first like very American things I remember about because I was in the UK for 4 years and then came when I was 4. It was also kind of traumatic because I couldn't really keep food down when I first got here, and McDonald's actually was a trigger, the burgers. But I haven't had a burger from McDonald's in probably almost like 35 years, like something wild, because they were always really like triggering for me. But I did grow to learn like love the chicken nuggets, but there's also like it's both like it's like a very emotional food because it's any food that's attached to that time. Like I tried to get Cadbury eggs, anything Cadbury. I did get the Cadbury bar, which is now melted. But yeah, like because and this is basically me looking at like childhood trauma in a way, but also the like like when it was like cold outside and you get like those fries and they're like hot from the oven, and they were just it really is a comfort food. And so then
Yeah.
that was like showing me like for me, I feel like food is really like almost it's like a language, and so your cravings like speak to you about what your body and your soul and your mind need, and not even just from a like from a physical space, right? So like chocolate, for example, a lot of people who crave chocolate, it's because you're like low in magnesium. So chocolate is like actually dark chocolate is one of the highest carriers of magnesium. So your body is desiring that, but the most accessible thing is going to the candy aisle, right? And then you start to have an attachment to it. For me, it's also emotional because for me, it was very much like it was like I was a medicating a part of myself, you know. And typically, I would eat these kind of foods. There's always like a shame attached, like I shouldn't be doing it because it's a bad food. I was being naughty today. You know how people talk about like, oh, I was being bad because I got a cupcake, and I'm like, it's a cupcake, right? But I could see that that kind of thinking had seeped into my consciousness too, and I'm like, I don't want to be ashamed. Like this is real food. It's processed food. I'm not going to pretend it's not. So it's food that I should not and cannot, if I want to live at my highest expression, have very often.
Right.
But I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, I can never have it. Because I'm like, that's what my mom could afford at certain points in my life. That was what was the most accessible to me.
Right.
And it's not like the most horrible thing. I'm like, I refuse to do that. And actually, the more that I refuse to do that, the more healthier I've
Yeah.
actually had a relationship with this, because it's like it's not laced with that shame or
It
guilt.
doesn't have power over
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So,
kind of like a lot of dietitians take the approach of keep the quote unquote bad food in the house. A lot of people are like, it's not in the
mhm,
house. It's like
mhm,
you're gonna have that breakdown moment
mhm,
where you're like, I'm going to Ralph's
mhm,
or Vaughn's. I'm gonna get Fruit Loops, Cheetos,
mhm,
hot Cheetos,
mhm.
Frosted Flakes, and we're gonna eat it
Yeah.
right now. Versus if it's all in the house, it's like you eat it and then you're like, okay, what now?
Mhm,
And nothing happens and then it loses its allure. And it's like
mhm,
this, we put it on this pedestal.
mhm,
And I was like, oh my God, it's so true. Because
mhm,
now it's like, oh, okay, I had it. It was fine.
mhm,
I can move on. Versus like, it's over there. The
mhm.
mystique.
Yeah.
It's bad. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And it's on your mind.
Yeah,
And
we're drumming up the story
yeah.
and creating this association. It's like a bad boy, right? Like, is he looking over here? And it's like, it's a candy bar, right? It's only gonna give you so much.
Yeah.
And most of the time, yeah, when I was having this stuff, it's like it was clearly it was a distraction. It was a sugar high. It was also like really dependable,
Mm.
right? Because this candy bar is going to taste about the same
Every
every
time.
fucking time I have it. Whereas where I was receiving care at that time in my life was not very dependable.
No.
Sometimes I would get it, but more often not. So I think my body knew, oh, it needed something quick,
Consistent.
accessible, consistent, easy, right? And it's for me, I make like a joke, but I'm like, it could have been crack, right? It could have been something else, right?
Was
But
it you that
yeah.
shared that video that was like, we don't get enough credit for not doing crack?
No, but I
Like,
do think
you
about
could have
that.
been on crack and you're not. And we
I'm
need to
not.
celebrate that. And like, he meant it with like all of the
Mhm.
zeal of like a
You have to
degree.
know what you're like where I grew up. Like, I don't know if you ever had this experience where you see someone and you're like, "Oh, that's me if I had gone all the way
The
left.
other way,
If I
yes.
had kept doing that thing and gone
Hmm.
down, that's." And so for me, I see a certain type of like alternative black girl, right? And she just like gets wrapped up in that hate, right? And what she does with it. Yeah, I could have become that. On a bad day, mom, Candace Owens, that could have been me.
Oh my
That could have been me if
God.
I had, the wrong
Just,
just it just kept on going, like, and so for me, like, it was candy. It
yeah.
was the snack shack, so we called it
Yeah.
after school. And it was 3 Snickers.
Mm.
Um, and it's also like, but it also makes sense. And it makes sense why when it intensifies for me. So I went to military school. It intensified again because we weren't allowed to have candy. So now it's like contraband. We're like hiding under our mattress. People are like getting it shipped to them, putting wrapping it up in clothes so you can't see. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But
That is
yeah, at
ridiculous.
military school, like I remember we had the ice cream machine, everyone could have it, but we weren't supposed to have it as the plebes, And so I remember I would be like, I'd have to like look and like immediately like put my money in and be like hoping that no senior officer would walk by, and then basically run back to my
For ice
room
cream.
for ice cream and like soda.
Oh my
So
god.
what kind of that of course intensified
Yeah.
and that's when I started my Cadbury egg addiction. That's when that started during that era, So I was like I wasn't doing the Cadbury eggs then, but it was accessible and it was seasonal. It
Yeah.
only came out like twice a year. So I was just like fiending for like when is it going to be Cadbury egg time? So basically I want to move out of that. I want to be like,
Mm.
yeah, this is me. These are where I've gone. It's funny, but it's also like clearly I was nurturing some things that were clearly very undermothered. And I found this like I never like finished a program, but I literally was Googling like I think just emotional eating, but somehow it's very weird. It came up when food is your mother.
Mm. Ooh.
And I just was like, what's that? And it was a white woman because there's a lot of white
It
women in
is
that
giving
space.
white because they were the
Yeah.
only ones like getting published on the
Yeah,
topic.
yeah, right. There's been one, well, there's been more black women, but like there's one black woman who I read in writing that chapter, especially, who she had bulimia,
Mm.
and she writes about the intricacy of that. And she grew up in the hood, and had a pretty chaotic family life. So you can kind of see what was happening, but people wouldn't often believe her
Right.
because they're like, "Oh, black girls don't get that."
Which is such
Uh,
a weird
right?
statement to say.
It's very strange, but this is where we're at. Some of our people in our society just can't imagine other realities. They just can't. They
I'm
can't meet
like,
it.
run the blood work. Run the blood.
Mhm.
This back and forth we do it.
Yeah.
Run the blood work, and you gonna find out what we talking about.
Yeah, cause yeah,
All this talking.
but she really was honest about it, and so yeah, that's how the that chapter developed, and this is
Mm.
why we're eating my favorite. Like, I
McDonald's.
only get the chicken nuggets, sweet and sour sauce, large fries, and a Dr. Pepper. Sometimes I do 3 chocolate chip cookies, and sometimes if I'm being really intense, I might do an M&M McFlurry. Have I done it all at once? Yes.
I see. I did not know that they
I
had the
have.
cookies, so I was
Yeah,
like,
they
"Shit,
did.
cookies, like what?"
Yeah, I
It's like
found them, of course.
literally like your
Yeah.
friend at like the
Mhm.
fancy restaurant that like is talking about I'm gonna have a 2018 Chablis, and you're like looking at them like, what the fuck did you just say?
Yeah.
Like I was like floored by I knew they had the McFlurries, but I was like, that's the type of dairy that I can't
No, I shouldn't
do.
either.
Like it'll make me break anything that makes me break out. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's an easy no
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I've gone through my acne phases and I
Mhm.
cannot go back.
Mhm.
So I'm like, that's easy. And I like ice cream. So I'll go
Mm.
and get nice ice cream.
Okay.
I'm like, even as a kid, I was like, I'll have diarrhea. Like, this is
Mhm.
a non negotiable. I'm in band camp. I can't.
Yeah.
I had a line,
Mhm.
where I was like, this is not fun anymore. And I guess that's where it's like levels of addiction.
Yes, yes.
It's funny. I think the best fast food meal I've done was one day I had time on my hands. I was like, I'm gonna go to McDonald's, I'm gonna get a large fry. Then I'm gonna go to Wendy's, I'm gonna get 10-piece nugget. Then
Mm.
I'm gonna go to Chick-fil-A.
Wow.
And they were like within a mile, but it was like a
Wow.
lot to go through all the I was like, I could never drag anyone
Yeah.
into this excursion. And then I would go to Chick-fil-A and get an Oreo milkshake. And then I came home and
Wow.
watched Grey's Anatomy. And I was
Oh, that's
like,
beautiful.
what a time.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
a time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's
And
dedication. And
yeah.
to me, it also shows like a discriminatory taste, right? Because
Yes.
that's all I do at McDonald's. Actually, no, I've done some of their breakfast menu. I'll be for real for that.
Yeah.
But for everything else, this is the only thing that I eat
Yeah.
there. But yeah, that shows like because Wendy's does have great burgers,
Yeah.
and what do I like? Yeah, I like Wendy's burgers. I like their Frosties, but I have to kind of be careful with those. Um, Burger King never really hit
Burger
me.
King never hit for me. No.
Unfortunately, it just wasn't it. It
Mm-mm.
just didn't. I just didn't develop a. Some people like it. Their
I don't
fries
know
are
anyone who
interesting.
likes it.
I know. You don't really hear.
No.
No, you don't. Not like Taco Bell or
I have
Chick-fil-A.
people who love Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I came to LA, people were like, "You haven't had Taco Bell?" I'm like, Why? When there's actual Mexican food."
Yeah, that's a question I've asked like, and I don't get it.
I'm
Yeah.
like, a
Yeah.
tortilla, like a bland tortilla, because like there's not a lot of context where I can get nuggets.
Yeah,
Like not like I feel like fast food restaurants have the monopoly on nuggets.
they do.
I can't get like fancy nuggets
Mhm.
somewhere else
Mhm.
versus like things like ice cream and burgers. There's like nice burgers, there's nice ice
Mhm.
cream.
Mhm.
So that is like, okay, well that takes the cake for me
Mhm.
versus like a nugget. Where the fuck are you gonna get a nugget?
Yeah,
Like you
nuggets are
don't have a
hard.
lot of choices.
Yeah, they are. They are tough. Nuggets are tough.
Who was it? I think
So
it was
yeah.
Rihanna and some person who I don't know. I don't think she's as famous as Rihanna.
Okay.
They had McDonald's nuggets and caviar.
Oh, that's cute.
I was like, that would be good.
Because I don't really like caviar, to be honest.
I love caviar.
Really?
I do.
Hmm. Maybe I just haven't had the right caviar.
There is a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of even if you don't like caviar, there's a lot of roe that's great.
Okay.
That if it's a texture thing, there's other roes that
Mhm.
have better texture.
Mhm.
And then it does depend on how it's cured.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's a lot to explore there. Should
Yeah.
you really feel like
I would love
you're
to.
like, let me figure this out. Like you can figure some shit out with
Okay.
caviar. Yeah.
Interesting. Because yeah, I haven't really. I had roe just like on axe. Like when in Nigeria, I cut. We went to have fish, and I cut mine open. It was just like all these eggs, just and I was like, okay, this is
See,
interesting.
that would fuck anybody up. See,
Yeah,
that's not even fair.
this has never happened to me
Yeah.
ever before, and I'm in Nigeria for the first time at 30. And yeah, so that was my first experience. I'm like, huh. They reminded me of like a certain kind of boba, you know,
Hmm.
like a very easily popping
Yeah.
boba with fish taste.
It's the ocean in a
Yeah.
bubble. I think
Yeah.
my introduction to caviar was like really, really magical and one of the more privileged areas of my life.
Okay.
But I went and had a birthday alone at this restaurant in Atlanta, Kimball House, and couldn't get my friends because I wanted to go to Kimball House and they were like, we're not going there. It's too expensive. And I was like, for me though. And they just
Yeah.
like didn't go. And so I went by myself and
Okay.
ordered, I mean, they actually ordered food for me, which was like, they're like, we're just gonna send you stuff, and they sent me their caviar service, which at the
Oh.
time they'd sent me like trout roe, and it had this whole setup with like creme fraiche and these little Johnny cakes and fresh herbs from their garden
Mhm.
and a little like cava or like a
Mhm.
brute sparkling or something. And it was
Nice.
just like the perfect bite. So that was my introduction to it.
Wow.
It could have been anything. Whatever was on that
Yeah,
plate, I
right.
was gonna be obsessed. And it
Wow.
happened to be roe, and that's what set it off for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
That was like a really I'll never forget that.
Mhm. Mhm. I have to explore. Yeah, because I really haven't. And I feel like that combination, I do love anything bubbles.
Yeah.
And I love
It makes a
kava.
huge difference.
Kava is my favorite one
Yeah.
of the bubbles. So, okay. Now I know,
Now
I,
you
I
have
like that. I
another
like that
reason to spend
compass.
$100.
Right?
Leave it to me to give you
Yeah,
more
thank
reasons.
you. Thank you.
I can go up from here.
No, please. Please. Yeah, because I mean, I think, yeah, it's the intricacies of like what we like, and I also see like the combination between like my taste, like you how you really do inherit your taste buds to some
Yeah.
degree, so whatever your mom was eating when you were in utero, and how that like can color and affect how what you find tasteful in the future, and yeah. So if I ever had a kid, they might have a craving for chicken nuggets. And I'm like, that's me
And
speaking through
chocolate
you.
chip.
Yeah, that's me. Hi,
Your ancestors.
the trauma's there. I hope that you've done something with this. But yeah, like, because it was big. And I also think about like how, I don't know, just the, how we teach American girls to eat is just
I
like
know.
traumatic in
We
itself.
don't teach them to eat.
No, we teach them how to control,
Yeah.
deny,
Yeah.
gorge,
Mm.
and be basically like eating shame, you know? So yeah, I think giving ourselves grace. I think I like that's been for me. I'm like, kind of like, when did you ever like, especially as an immigrant kid, it's like you have to clean your plate. That was one of the first things I learned to show my
Clean
mom.
your
I
plate.
literally would like lick the plate clean, like, look, do you see what I did? And of course, it was like a, probably a neurodivergent overly,
To
performative gesture.
overcompensate,
But
yeah.
like it was because it was just like, oh, you don't waste food. That was seen as
It's
a
funny
sin.
because it's like, why do I have to ingest it though? Like,
Yeah.
I could not waste it. I could save it. I could repurpose it. There's so many ways to not waste it besides me overeating something or
Mhm.
eating something I don't like.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
reality and ignoring my tastes, ignoring my
Mhm.
needs. And
Mhm.
to some extent, I get the survival mentality,
Yes,
but
yes.
to a large extent, it's like, when is it ever cool to force feed
Mm,
anybody?
mhm.
Like, that's like, it's like,
Mhm.
let's just take a second to think about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good,
No.
right? Like that's typically where the cult stuff starts to move in. Anytime like there's an entity outside of you that's telling you what you should eat for
Mm.
your individual wellness, something's going on.
We have to look at that.
Yeah, because it's like I get it for expedient, but I think there should be choice,
Yeah.
because we're not all supposed to eat the same things. So I'm going to be reading from the first interlude in Honey's a Knife, which is about moving from shame to power. So there's three interludes in Honey's a Knife, and each are a story that's like famous about Oshun, and they're all illustrating one of the ways that she is an alchemist. Like she takes something that might be seen as negative and turns it into something that's positive. And so here we're going to be talking about the Orisha, who are basically like the name. It's like a name to describe the gods, the defined personifications of divine energy. So here's the first one, which is interlude one, from shame to power. So one day, people were really trying to get Ogun, the Orisha of iron, to return to civilization. But Ogun wasn't feeling it. He was going through some identity stuff and wasn't sure if he wanted to continue his terms of employment, despite the generous 401k. The Orishas tried all their persuasions, invites to the best feast, courtside tickets for the fertility festival, yams, etc. They even tried having some of the other gods go and talk to Ogun, but nothing worked. Finally, the gods wised up and asked Oshun to go and talk to Ogun. Perhaps, as his on and off again friends with benefits, she could persuade him. Oshun yawned. So like these gods to only invite her when they needed something, but she always did like a challenge. She returned home, covered her body with wildflower honey and royal jelly, and paused right by the river, which was also conveniently near Ogun's studio. Sure enough, when Ogun saw Oshun in all her glory, he forgot his own name. He was awake. One of Oshun's mightiest powers is her sexual and sensual energy. Humans, to our deep detriment, have misunderstood, underestimated, and pigeonholed Oshun and her sensual power since she arrived on the scene. Far from being simplistic hyper promiscuity, sexual energy lies along the same plane as creation, as power, and as money. Sex is power, and this is why women and gender expansive beings have been shamed for our sexuality for eons. The world has not been made ready for this power. But goody for us, where there is shame, there is power. Power is confidence, security, stability, and the ability to do, be, or have what you really want. Great shame and great power are always in relationship, like the bend of umbilical cord. Oshun never wastes time forcing anyone to her will or convincing anyone that she is powerful. In this story, she embodied who she was. She existed. She covered herself with honey and stood by a tree, her power less domination and more invitation. Oshun teaches us to undertake the vulnerable work of transforming our deepest shames into our deepest powers by choosing to name ourselves in a different way again and again and again.